My name is Ropafadzo Zimunya. I'm 21 years old, co-founder of Greenit Diversified Group. When I finished my A-levels in 2016, I had low grades, so I had to take a gap year. During that year, I met a friend, Mutare, who's also now co-founder of Greenit Diversified Group. And we were having a conversation, and we were asking each other how we could deal with our failures and, look for something productive to do. And we really decided that we should start a business, but at that time we didn't have any business idea. So, we would read a lot of stuff, a lot of material online and in magazines and all of that. And one day, we were reading a baseline research that was done by one of the local non-governmental organizations that was talking about the banana industry in Zimbabwe. And, the statistics were very interesting because they showed that there was a lot of production for banana, but there wasn't really any market for the bananas. And we took to research on what we could use bananas for. And I remember my partner Mutare coming to me and he said, you know what, have you ever heard about something called banana flour? And I said, banana flour, what is banana flour? And he said, it's a flour that's made in Central and East African countries, and it's made from bananas, and some use plantains. And I said, what is it used for? And he said, it can be used for all forms of baking. And at that moment, I didn't really, like the idea, I didn't catch it. And so I went back and I had to read a bit on the flour. And then I realized that, in as much as people were making the flour traditionally, no one had made a flour that would outperform wheat flour in the oven. So we then decided to try out a few experiments. We had bananas in our backyard. At Mutare's place, there were bananas. So, we started doing a few experiments, trying to make flour. It wouldn't come out as flour. But, one day we came up with a formula, and we had produced a flour that would outperform wheat flour. And that's when we realized that, we were onto something. After we had tried out a few samples, we then realized we were onto something. And I remember Mutare was attending Padare Business Forum, a program that is held by Celebration Church Mutare. And I remember he was saying, you know what, there's a pitch night that's coming in November. Let's apply for that pitch night. And, we just applied. We really didn't think we could ever win that. And just about the same time, we got someone sent us an online application for the CBZ Youth Entrepreneurs Program, and then we applied. So we attended the first workshop for the Youth Entrepreneurs Program, which was held in Mutare. And, there was Jonah Mungoshi and Shingichi Tsike and their team, and they were into actual businesses. And they were telling us there was a prospect for us to actually win $10,000 so that we could start our business. And this was very exciting, given we had just come up with an idea, and we hadn't really even tested the idea on the market. So, people seemed very interested in the product itself as we told them that we had come up with a special gluten-free flour. And so, after the first workshop of the CBZ Youth Entrepreneurs Program, we then had Padare Pitch Night. And, there was Dr. Naicho Chinakira and other prominent business people from Mutare. And, there were two sessions that were held there. The first session had a different set of judges, and the other one had a final set of judges. And, it was 11 contestants. And when we got into the finals, after being selected from the 11, the finals had 3 contestants. We were really surprised that, they had said we had actually gotten the highest marks in the first round. And so when we got into the second round, we just did it. And, that's when we started believing that we were onto something, because that night we walked away with 5,000 US dollars. And so, we started setting up our plant, with the 5,000 US dollars, and trying to market the product and refine the product. We worked on the packaging for the product and some trials for the product. We then realized it was actually something that was intriguing the market a lot. And so, that gave us more hope, and it also gave us inspiration for the CBZ program. So we would attend the CBZ workshops, and we came out winners in the CBZ program. And one thing I have to say, it wasn't, for us, it was never obvious that we would win the CBZ program, because, given a product that had never been on the market and never really been tested by the market and by the masses, there was quite a lot. It really had to take a lot for, the judges to believe in us and to believe in the product. And I'd like to say, they took a leap of faith in believing in a product that was, something that was really more ideological than really practical, making a product that would outperform wheat flour. But they took the leap of faith, and we won $10,000, and it really helped us in setting up the business. And with the program, there came a lot of exposure. We would get calls from all over. At first, I was really worried about the interaction with the media, because, I thought they would put a lot of pressure on us, and we wouldn't be able to live up to the hype, and to sell the product, because we hadn't even started selling the product. So, my partner Mnashe would always say, what, relax, let's just go into it, and let's just do it. And the exposure brought a lot of opportunities. We've been to Egypt with the same product for some presentations at the African Union Private Sector Forum. We've been featured in the Forbes magazine, the Forbes Africa magazine, the 30 under 30 feature. And it has been quite an interesting journey, given we are only 21-year-olds, who just had a dream and had a product. And it's really amazing how the product is starting to gain traction, and people, we have certain people who have now moved from the alternative wheat flour, from wheat flour, and moving to our alternative. And we are having a lot of people who have been diagnosed with celiac disease, and they're saying, gluten-free products were very expensive for us, but it's actually amazing you guys have a gluten-free product that we can actually afford. And we thought our conditions, were going to be very expensive, but with your kind of product, you've really helped us. So we then started to realize there was a whole community of people who were waiting for the product, but we hadn't really broken into the market. So right now it's actually exciting, because we're meeting new people every day. We meet people who are very interested in the product, and people who appreciate the product. And we've been growing organically. The company is growing slowly. We now employ 7 people at the factory, and we have 2 administrative staff. And it's coming up well. Of course, as a business, it's got its highs and lows. It's got its stresses, but we were equipped. Padare Business Forum, it's a very good business platform where you get mentorship. Also, the CBZ Youth Entrepreneurs Program, the material that they gave us, and the relationship that we have with the banks, with CBZ, it's amazing. They help you through stuff. Banks are not only there, for giving people money and giving people loans. They're actually there to facilitate relationships, between you and other businesses. And, these banks they are run by people, and having a very good relationship with the bank is something that's very precious, because you get opportunities. We've been invited to talk with some of the best business minds in Zimbabwe, and also to speak at platforms such as the CBZ International Indaba, SME Indaba in Bulawayo. And I'd like to believe I was the youngest speaker there. And you know, all these things are the precious things that you meet in business, and all these opportunities are opened. And we've really learned, you know, some of the basics of businesses, such as networking, you know, how networking is very powerful. And personally, I think it's one of the most important, you know, skills that you need to have. You know, the art of networking. You need to be able to network with different people and all of that. And you see, with these programs, the Youth Entrepreneurs Program, we could network with a lot of people. I remember there are people right now who are from the first stages of the Youth Entrepreneurs Program. They didn't make it to maybe the provincial stage, but we're actually doing business up to now, because we kept communicating, and you know, they became part of the network. And you know, the follow-ups that Youth Entrepreneurs Program does, you know, they're very important, and they're very helpful in that, you know, they're always, you know, asking on your progress, and you're always accounting. And this has really helped us in growing this business. And right now, we have penetrated quite a number of restaurants, and it's coming up well. And we have people who actually come to us with very interesting proposals of recipes that they actually come up with after they try out our product. And they say, guys, you know what, I've made this using your flour, and it's really amazing. And we're discovering things every day. And you know, I'm really grateful for my family, because when you know, telling your family that you now want to make flour from bananas, and it was really, you know, it was a phase, but I'm very grateful for my family, because they were very supportive, and at times they would actually believe more in the vision than I actually did. And you know, that's actually one of the things I'll forever cherish. And you know, getting in business was not the easiest thing that I've ever done, because you know, when you get there, there's a risk of either being too passive or being too hyped, and you know, you can be overhyped, and that could be your own downfall. And you know, there are times where when we would receive phone calls from people, and they would call us and they say, you know what, we're sending you transport money right now. I want you to come to Harare. We've got an interesting proposal and all of that. And you know, some of the things were very absurd and unrealistic. And you know, it had to take that grounding, you know, for us to not bite into some of these deals, which now looking back, in retrospection, you can actually tell, you know, that some of these things were scams. But you know, up to now, we are here today, and our business is safe, and we haven't taken part in any of those. But you know, it really comes when you've got the maturity to actually account, because I think one of the biggest problems we have with with our youth these days is there's that sense of, I can do it alone, and I don't need mentors. I can always look stuff up on the internet. I can, people create networks and they try to create their networks on their own, and yes, it can work, but I think what has really helped us is to be connected with people who are very seasoned in business, and before we do anything, of these well-seasoned business people, and we ask them, we talk to them, we ask them, we're going through this phase right now in our business, how do we handle it? And they always tell us what they think would work, and they always tell us, it's, at the end of the day, we are business people, we have to make the decision. But after being informed and advised, you make less mistakes. And yes, I know, it's people always say it's very common to make mistakes in business. And yes, mistakes will always be made, but they have to be minimized. You have to limit, the number of mistakes you make, and also the level and, the degree of mistakes you make. By accounting, when you account to a better business person, a well-seasoned person, and you've got these organizations like Empowered Life Trust, which runs the Youth Entrepreneurs Program together with CBZ. They give you proper advice, and when you get this, they will tell you to make your business professional. And I think one of the best lessons I've learned from YEP was actually the first lesson that Jonah Mgoshi taught us when we had the first Youth Entrepreneurs Program meeting. He said the pocket of the business is not your pocket. When the business is making it, it doesn't mean you have to make it also because the business is making it. The business will eventually start paying you, but when the business is rich, it doesn't mean you are automatically rich. And it really taught me a lesson, because those days I was trying to start a small business, and I remember clearly when the business made $50, it meant I had $50. And now when my business makes money, I paid by the business. And these are some of the very important lessons that we learned, that the business is a person, and it's got its own pocket, it's got its own finances, and you have to handle your personal finances separately from the business finances. And being young, now I've just turned 21, and Munashi just turned 21 also. It's amazing how you get to set up meetings with some people who actually don't believe in your age. When they look at you and they don't take you seriously. And we have had times that we had to cut off meetings because people were just generally not taking us seriously. And at times people make offers just trying to see how you rationalize things, and just trying to try you out. And these are some of the things you have to learn, and the patience, and to also accept that you're still young, and there's a lot that could go wrong, and there's a lot that could actually go right. And always embracing your age, and making the most of your energy, because someone told me that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time around. So if you look at 5 people you spend the most time with, you are an average of those people. And so this really brings me down to the networking. And I've mentioned networking a lot now, because it's one of the most important lessons I've learned. And it's a very important skill that every entrepreneur needs, because without networking, you really work in isolation, and in isolation there's really very little growth. But when you are connected to people, when you are connected to the right networks and the right channels, you see a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and it's not within your capacity to do that stuff. But when you realize that your capacity is limited, you have to rely on the resource in other people, and that will take you further. Even when you're starting business, there's a tendency of oneself. because you believe so much in the vision, and you don't want other people to take the vision in the wrong direction. But I've learned to, you call your guys, you sit down, you explain the vision until they catch it, and you let them be, you let them do how best they feel they can take the vision forward. Once they understand the vision, you just have to let them work. You just have to let them do how they want to do it, and what they feel like doing to advance the vision. Most often, young entrepreneurs, when we're starting businesses, we burn out ourselves because we want to do everything by ourselves. And at the end of the day, the very striking reality that will hit us is we are people, and we've got limited capacity. And most of the times it will be too late, and the businesses would have fallen. And over time, usually such people will start new businesses, and they'll succeed based on the previous lesson. So when you start a business, and you've got mentors who delegate power and duties in a business, it will help you to minimize the range of mistakes that could be made. Because if you put everything on you, it means when you burn out, the business burns out. But when you've got a team, and your team understands the vision, and they work with the vision, it really helps you to know that you've got a team that understands the vision. So as a young person, to other young people who want to venture into business, is the worst thing they can ever do, and the worst thing you can ever do to yourself when you want to start a business, is to underestimate the power of the vision that you have for the business. So what I'm simply saying is, a lot of people, when they start businesses, they look at their businesses from a perspective that it's not it's not the real thing. And if you ask them, they'll tell you, they're trying to set up a business. And I've realized when we meet young entrepreneurs, and you're introducing yourselves, very few will tell you their names in their own capacity, according to their businesses, that I'm the CEO of such a business. Why? Because there's this inferiority complex that engulfs a lot of people, and they can't they can't really own it and say, I'm a CEO, I run a business. And no matter how small it is, you are a CEO, you are a COO of your company. You in that capacity, you own the vision. And the worst mistake you can ever make is to look down upon that vision, because if you don't believe in the vision, you can never set up a team that can ever believe in the vision, because the vision is yours. And at times, there's a notion that's corrupting a lot of young people right now, that people now believe that innovation is the only way to business. And it's not really that. I believe that you need innovation to a certain extent. But business is really about, you can do something that has been done before. But doing business is about you knowing how to really set up a team that can work and sell something. Even if it's been sold before, you can sell something in a new way. That's the kind of innovation I kind of believe in. Not really coming up with new products, but doing things differently. That I subscribe to that kind of innovation. Not really innovation that you don't have something new. I've heard, one of the biggest questions I've heard from people who ask me about doing business as young people, they always come to me, and the first thing they tell me is, I don't have a business idea because I haven't invented anything yet. So I can't have a business like you, because you guys invented a formula for making banana flour that outperforms wheat flour. And I always tell them, you know what, it's not really, innovation is not really about coming up with a new product. I subscribe to an innovation that is really based on doing things differently. You could be selling samosas, but in a different way. And I've known guys who sell cakes, and they sell cake in a different way, and their cake is bought. And I know guys who do everyday things, that they do those things in a different way and those things work. So after everything has been said and done, the young entrepreneur of today has to understand that we are in a whole different time. Information is very important. When you're out there and you want to start a business, you really need to have people who are informed around you. No matter what your qualification is, I'm pretty sure no one really knows everything. And so, you need to really have people, and there has to be, a method of teams where you work in teams, and that's very important. You create teams in your workplace when you're starting. No matter how small you are, you can get people. When we started, we had a bookkeeper who came to us and he said, guys, I believe in the vision, and I don't care if I'm not getting paid, but I believe this somewhere, and I know someday you guys will be able to pay me. And this also brings the power of vision and the power of networking, and how you can create teams with people who believe in the vision. So in a nutshell, I always conclude by telling people that when people are being told about business, no one really tells them that it's going to be a very difficult journey. They usually see the mountaintop experience where people see the final result. No one really tells you that it's going to be difficult. But one thing I can tell you is, if you decide to get into business, you've got to be ready for what's going to come, because there are going to be days where you will walk on foot. There are going to be days where you don't have money to run the business. There are going to be days where it seems impossible. There are going to be days where it seems as if you are doing the right product but to the wrong people. And there are going to be days where you feel you've got the right product also, but it's the wrong time. Or then there's going to be one of those worst days where you actually feel you're doing the wrong product. All of this will always happen, but you have to know that if there is vision, there will always be a provision. And once you understand that you as a person have limited capacity, you need to create teams that will help you pursue your vision.